Hello. Today I'd like to be showcasing my build that I use in Havoc 40. I really don't have a name for this build, but I'll give it a nickname for now. I'll call it the Magic Wand. Now you're probably asking yourself, why would you call it the Magic Wand? Well, let me show you. Now, as you can see, I've come across a big group of stinky people, and I have put my Magic Wand into the Wombo mode. Now watch as I make all of these fellers disappear. Now, as you can see, everything on my screen has ceased to exist, other than this Ragey here, which you can tell by his face, is probably in a lot of pain. Now, I don't think this build is meta breaking or anything like that. It's just a build I've been really enjoying using in Havocs, and I thought I would share it with y'all today. So I hope you guys like it, and let's go ahead and get into the details of this build. Starting off with the Magic Wand here, we go 60 into defense, and our perks are Carapace and Flak, and our blessings are Power Surge and Opportunist. Now, I think Power Surge is the specialty of this build, causing an additional shockwave and 25 explosion radius. You double your damage with the additional shockwave, and the 25 explosion radius is key to clearing out rooms that you walk into. I personally think this is probably your best blessings for this build in particular. Of course, you can always go I think it's Skull Crusher, where you stagger enemies. When you stagger enemies, you get like damage or something. But for this in particular, this is what's really tickling my funny bone when I play Havoc and stuff. So I honestly think this is the good shit right here. To our secondary, I choose the Grenadier Gauntlet because I feel like it fits the playstyle a lot more than it would the Rumbler, which was my first pick. And that's not to say the Rumbler isn't a bad choice here. I think where this build kind of falls off is in its boss damage. But so if you ever need to get some more boss damage, I highly recommend just choosing the Rumbler. We go 60 into melee damage. We again go Carapace and Flak, and we choose Explosive Offensive and Shattering Impact. In Havoc, there is a lot of armor. There's a lot of armor you got to deal with. So the reason I'm choosing Explosive Offensive is so when I do that special attack, I get the strength if I ever want to pull out my magic wand and give them a little fucking wombo combo, give them a little smack, and then Shattering Impact to deal with those armored enemies that I'm having to deal with, or if I have to deal with monstrosity or something, I can apply Brittle to it. So I think this is probably. I've honestly, instead of Shattering Impact, I was running what's it called? Sorry, I forget things. I was running Disruptive. I think this is also pretty good. Um 3.5 seconds is pretty low though, so you got to be quick with it. Maybe get a shot in and then just smack a couple of enemies. But I think for more consistent results, Shattering Impact is probably your best bet. Now onto our curios, we have the main stat as toughness for all of them. And then the secondary substat is going to be toughness and gunner. With the only difference between these curios is two of them have revive speed and one of them has combat ability regen. Me personally, I just really like the revive speed being a little bit quicker, but I didn't want to take it into the talent tree. And combat ability regen just to have that nice little top up of regen. Um, this is the revive speed is really just personal preference. I really like just reviving people a lot quicker. If you feel like you would like to change that, by all means go ahead. It's just a personal preference of mine. Now onto our skill tree, we choose heavyweight. I really like heavyweight here because of the 30% damage increase against bulwarks, crushers, plague ogrins, and reapers. These enemies I come across all the time in Havoc. The damage reduction, though, I will say it's only helpful against bulwarks and plague ogrins. Crushers, if I get hit by them, I'm pretty much dead, if not out one shot. Reapers, they liquidate me in like 0.5 seconds if I'm not positioned correctly, or if I decide to be a monkey and just run up to them and get myself killed. um, But we're really here for that 30% damage increase against these enemies, and it's from all sources when they take some sort of damage, which is really good here. And I think this perk is just better instead of the coherency and then steady grip. We do have Grenadier Gauntlet, so we can ADS. But I just don't see myself ADSing a lot and just like kind of hanging back like a veteran type of playstyle. In this build is mainly melee focused, so I think this is just better. You're better off taking this perk, and I think this is kind of just like a must-have. Down to the second perk, we choose Smash 'em. Smash 'em is a nice perk to have when dealing with any sort of monstrosity or captain. I just smack them around until they're fucking dead, and my toughness stays up. Pretty good perk to have, and that goes for melee hit or heavy melee hits as well, which increases it to 15%, which is just really nice to have. And for the best defense, this is my just clearing out ads perk. Really nice perk to have, and as you can see, it says hitting multiple enemies with a single melee attack. We do this a lot when we put our magic wand in the wombo mode and just clearing out rooms of enemies. So for me personally, I think these three perks are just kind of like the roots of this build. We don't we don't really take anything else when other we don't take any other like toughness nodes in this skill tree other than these two. And these two perks are really good to have. If it's not one enemy, it's going to be a lot. So these two perks I think are just kind of like no brainers. And like I said before, heavyweight as well. Yeah. Now onto our grenades, we choose frag bomb, or which I like to call the nuke. I think this is probably the best option when dealing with any kind of like carapace and havoc. Um, there's a lot of rotten armor. You got blue stems running around in a roaching garden. I think this is just good to have for that giant damage number that it outputs. Cluster bombs or bombs away, I don't think will really help. Uh, in that case, maybe you'll stagger them and maybe you'll like tenderize them a little bit, but I would prefer them to be off my fucking screen with nuke. Uh, and honestly, if there's a giant horde of armor running at you and there's one pink guy in the background, if you can't get through all of that armor and get to the pink guy fast enough, you're probably gonna have these enemies heal away all the damage you do with bombs away. As much as I love the good old rock, and as much as of a meme it is, its reduced effectiveness against carapace enemies is what really kind of just steers me away from this. Honestly, I don't play around with this one enough. Maybe I try figuring out a build with it, but in Havoc, I just really don't see myself using it, and I think Frag Bomb is probably just your best bet for obvious reasons. Down to the damage reduction side of the tree, I want to talk about Can't Hit Me Again. It's 20% damage resistance versus ranged enemies. Uh, I don't know. I really hate gunners, especially as an Ogren. I couldn't justify adding another 20% damage reduction against any sort of like ranged enemy, specifically gunners here when I already have 60 here, and if I like peek a fucking room that's has like three or four gunners, I just lose my health in like an instant. So I kind of have a gripe with that. So I didn't want to just add more and then still see the same results. So I really couldn't add this on the tree because of it. But instead we take the node above it, which is payback time, which this is always on. You're always dodging in Darktide. You're getting hit in Darktide too, taking little dot or tiny little hits from like little ads or whatever. So this is always on. This is a consistent 15% damage increase. Excuse me, I hit the fucking hiccups, I think. And to our next perk, we choose Soften Them Up. This is pretty much brittle, in your melee weapon, and it procs by just hitting enemies, which is super simple to do. And this 10% damage increase goes for your teammates as well. It works just like brittle. So this is a really good perk to have for your team. And it's just more damage, so who doesn't love more damage? Now to the only damage reduction node we take, it's focus fire. Not focus fire. It's focus fighter. Sorry. uh, grants you 4% damage resistance from a successful melee attack, and that stacks up to 5 times, so that's 20%. Uh, Jeez, man, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me. It's 20% damage reduction, uh, and that's a good amount. And we also have a 5% damage reduction on base. So, you know, like I said before, this melee build, gosh, I can't do this. Moving on, we go into our abilities here, which is Loyal Protector. This is a must-have for the build because we need the left and right side nodes of this tree, and taking either Indomitable or Point Blank Barrage, we can't get either or. So we take Loyal Protector, which is honestly a good option to take. We like it for its stagger, we like it for its taunt, and also we like it for its 20% base damage from all sources. Um, Loyal Protector has a giant AoE when you proc it, so you're hitting a lot of enemies with it. And Havoc, there's always a lot of enemies, so it's really nice to have. Um, Going down into my favorite part of this skill tree overall is Big Boom. Big Boom increases your explosion radius by 27%. That, alongside with our magic wand here having 25% explosion radius, that's a big fucking boom if you ask me. You know, that's the reason you're walking into a room, you're putting your magic wand in wombo mode and watching everything fucking disappear on your screen, which I love personally. So I think um, Big Boom is probably my favorite node out of this whole fucking tree, and the reason why I made this build. So, yeah, we take Slam for the impact bonus to get the what's it called? Opportunist kind of procced a lot more easier when it comes to like crushers and stuff. You know, you're able to proc opportunist a lot more easier and get that damage increase from it. And it's nice to kind of just keep your stamina up as well. You know, if it's not, crushers and like unyielding enemies, which are bulwarks and reapers, everything else, you're like getting your stamina back really quickly, which is really nice to have. Going into the left side of our tree here for our first perk that we take is Beat Them Back. 15% melee damage on successful heavy melee attack. We do this a lot already with our magic wand, putting it into the wombo combo mode and just blowing everything up in our vicinity. We have 15% melee damage right after, so you can go into smacking some heretics with your magic wand, or for what I like to do is go into my grenadier gauntlet and using that damage for the impact bonus when I hit them with my special attack, and then alongside with the explosion. So me personally, that's what I like to do, but we really take this perk so we can get Crunch. Crunch says it does 15% damage bonus and 30% impact bonus to your charged melee attack based off of your charge time. Our special melee attack does some good damage already, but it gets amped up really with Crunch. So I see these two perks here being very important to the build. And my personal favorite, Big Boom, I have to take this one just for that giant explosion. So that's why I see Loyal Protector as a pretty mandatory pick here. Going down into Strike True, we take Strike True so we can get Batter. 10% is nice though, by the way. Batter is really nice though for that bleed stacks on heavy hits. Like I said, heavy hits, we do that a lot. Um, but just, smacking hordes around for that bleed stacks is also nice as well. Our melee attacks are very cleave like with the heavy attack, other than like the specials and stuff. And our lights as well will just infinitely go into like a cleaving motion. So you're hitting a lot of enemies with your magic wand. Sorry. So yeah, I really like Batter for that option, um, because it plays into Delight and Destruction as well. and this stacks up to 5 times, so that's, fucking 30% damage reduction. So that's why I really like batter. I have tried playing around with fire away. This really isn't a bad option as well, but just from the lack of damage reduction nodes that we take up here, I take delight and destruction and batter because of that. And it's nice damage too, so I really can't complain. And for those reasons, that's why I take batter. So yeah, we take Bonebreaker R. Gosh, I'm so fucking stupid. We take this aura for the melee attack damage for me and my allies, and we go down into the purple tree, which we take heavy hitter. We take heavy hitter over burst limiter because it just plays more effectively into the build, and there's a lot more nodes that I like in this part of the tree than I do in this tree. And I can't justify getting all these nodes just to get into these two perks here, which are the main reasons why I want to go into Burst Limiter, which is Massacre and Lucky Streak, and then also Maximum Firepower for the cooldown reduction, which is, I think, more so important between the two. But I could also just go into Bruiser, but we don't even take that here. So we go into the left side of the tree. For the first perk on the left side of the tree, we take Frenzy Blows, which I think is probably the best perk out of this whole tree, other than the obvious heavy hitter. The attack speed this gets is really nice, super nice, in fact. You can get this going pretty quickly. With this alongside Batter, you're proccing your bleed super quickly. And, faster bleed, faster attack speed, faster death for the enemy. Alongside that, we proc Focus Fighter a lot quicker with that 20% damage increase, which is always nice. Alongside that, we have Smash 'em and Best Defense up here. We get these going a lot quicker. So we have faster toughness replenishment, faster damage reduction, and faster TTK with this one node, Frenzy Blows. So me personally, I don't think it's a mandatory option, of course, but I think it's a really nice addition to have. Going into Delight and Destruction, I've talked a little bit about this already. 30% damage reduction, uh, with all the bleeding enemies in your presence. I think that's just nice to have from the lack of damage reduction we have up here. We go into Dominate. Dominate's nice to have. 10 seconds is a lot of time. And 10% rending is also nice. This can also stack with Opportunist. So just having 35 rending with, while they're staggered, by the way, they have to be staggered for the 35. And you have to have an elite kill. Is really nice to have, right? So that's why I take that alongside, Havoc has, like I said before, a lot of enemies that are just armored, and there's a lot of elites in there. So this makes sense to me to take. Going down into Bash and Blast, this is a super easy perk to get going. You can get this going by just clearing a horde of enemies or putting your magic wand in the wombo mode and just clearing out everything. And by that point, you probably have 5 stacks, if not close to, right? So, and that just buffs our Grenadier Gauntlet. And that's what I like, you know, for that special attack. Going into heavy hitter, um, 3% melee damage for 7 seconds on melee attack hit, stacking 5 times. Can I read and talk? Like, holy shit. Excuse me. We get 3% damage on 7 seconds, stacking 8 times. And we get 2 of those stacks on heavy hits, which is really nice. And it plays more into the build than it would Burst Limiter. Um, we go down and we go into just getting started. We take this just so we can get impactful. Impactful stacking with heavy hitter is a lot of stagger, and getting that stagger, we have more rending. So I find that very important than cleave. We don't really cleave on this one. We kind of blow shit up on this one, on this build. So that I see impact way more important. And yeah. So that's why we take that. Just getting started. Also a nice perk to have, more attack speed, like I've talked about before, procs all these other things that I've shown you. So that's also really nice to have, more attack speed. And yeah, that's the build. Also, I wanted to talk about Big Boom just for a little bit. When you have this explosion radius alongside with Power Surge, there's gonna be cases where you're like fighting a fucking, I don't know. It really doesn't matter what you're fighting, but there will be like a poxburster in the distance. Because you have that big explosion radius, you're gonna hit that poxburster with your wombo combo move a lot farther than you think. And that goes with barrels too. So if you even hear the sound of a poxburster getting near you, I would just halt, just wait a second, see if your teammates are anywhere near that poxburster. Just be a bit careful and try not to get you and others killed with this because there will be cases, and I've done them plenty of times where I've hurt my teammates with the radius of the explosion and blowing up barrels, sending them flying and stuff. So other than that, uh, this build also, although it doesn't have the best boss damage, the magic wand here can really output a good chunk of damage to a boss if you hit him in the head. Um, so it's really not that bad when it comes to boss damage. Like I've said before, if you don't have the boss damage in your team, go Rumbler. Uh, so yeah, that's the build. I've been enjoying this build for so long. I haven't really looked into any other Ogre builds or I haven't even looked at any of that shit up because I have made this build a while back and it's been so much fun and I've been using it for so long at this point and it's been a real joy to play with and I thought I would just share it with y'all. So I hope you guys enjoy it and yeah. I don't normally make content like this, but if you'd like to see more of it, please let me know by like a comment or a little like or subscribe. That would help me out and let me know that you guys would like to see more content like this. I don't also see myself qualified to be talking about any sort of meta builds. More so, I can make little fun builds here for y'all, or just show y'all what I like to use in Havg 40 if this is received well. But yeah, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate your time, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Later.